Hey there, this is Kimberly Inez Mays, and I am actually coming from my car. So, want to try doing things a little differently. Every now and then, mix things up, and it's a pretty nice day. So, I have my car set up like a little office. I got my shag carpeting in the back, and I got my table and my desk and everything. And of course, I got my cat headrest. So, we're good. We're good here. So, I wanted to just talk about a couple of things, but if you don't know me, or if you're just hearing the sound of my voice for the very first time, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Kimberly Inez Mays, and I demystify technology for small, medium size enterprises, organizations, businesses, so that they can stop duct taping their systems together and be able to scale with confidence. So that's who I am. And I do so with marketing, technology, and automation. And of course, of all things, AI. And that is the subject of today's video. It's not only just about AI, but it's about delegating your thinking to AI. And I talked about that a lot, but I want to talk about it again in the lens of, yes, use it as a tool, but to be able to use it as a tool, you really need to understand how it works. And I know, like, machine learning, AI systems is not the most sexiest thing, right? People will tell you, oh, well, now you can create 400 blog posts with just one prompt, or create your business plan with just one prompt, or do this or do that. And that is like the sexy content, right? Everybody wants to know how to do this stuff. In fact, I just recently did a poll in which I asked people, like, hey, what do you want me to teach you? And I think the overwhelming majority of those people who took the poll said that they want to learn how to create content that isn't AI slop, but they want to create content quickly with AI. And that's all good, because I do teach that as well. But I also want to caution everybody listening or watching, or whatever it is, how you fancy to consume what I'm saying, is that it's not a set it and forget it type of situation. We live in a very microwave society, so if there is a shortcut to something, best believe that most people want to take it, myself included. So I'm not shaming you if you feel shamed, or you feel seen or exposed by what I just said. But I think it's really important to understand how AI, how large language models like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, how they work, and how the inputs you feed it influences the outputs that you get. And even more so, it's how the model is trained. And there's so many models out there that I can't even keep up. There's a new model every single day. And I think it's important to understand that models are trained off of existing data, and existing data may or may not be perfect. Actually, say may or may not, but I know for a fact that it is not perfect, right? You've heard of biases, hallucinations. You've heard of a lot of things that could go wrong with AI, because AI is just that, artificial intelligence. It's not actualized real intelligence, and it's unable to make inferences as a human being would, because it is really drawing from the way it was trained. And sometimes the way it's trained, for I guess the vast majority of business cases, is okay. But if you're dealing with things like, making decisions about people, making decisions that affect people's lives, livelihoods, you want to take a closer look to see the types of biases and the types of outputs that you get. And the reason why I really want to talk about why it's so important not to delegate your thinking is because once you know how these models work, not that you won't use it, of course use it, I use it, but you use it differently, and you interpret and use the outputs a lot differently. So for example, if you are doing some content, or you're doing like maybe a business plan, or doing some market research, or you're doing something that will influence a decision, you don't want to say, hey, make a decision, should I do X product or Y product, should I do this or should I do that, and then take it as gospel. I think a lot of times we trust the decisions, and we meaning not just me, but just people in general, trust the decisions that AI makes because it's done quickly, fast, and with a high degree of confidence. And the model's trained to sound confident. It's trained to give you security even when it's dead wrong. And that is really the basis of hallucination. So what can you do really? What can you do in that situation, especially when you are using these models for content creation, research, if you're using it for data analysis and things like that? Well, first of all, I always say human in the loop, human in the loop. There's a lot of speculation like, oh, we won't need people in the future. We can just put it in AI and see what we get. And that is not the case. The case is that you want to treat it like a junior assistant, right? You want to treat it like it is an intern in which you need to follow up with and make sure that the output is correct. You need to take time to train your intern. You need to understand if the intern understands what it is that you want before giving it to you. You have to ask your intern to cite their sources and then double check their work. You need to really understand what that intern knows and how it's working. So when I say intern, I really mean a large language model. And AI is really a helper if you think of it. It's not a genie. And it's fun to pretend it's a genie, right? Sometimes I play a little game with it. Sometimes I'll have it finish a story or write a silly poem or a song. And then other times I'll have it transcribe a video that I'm doing. I'll actually have real business use cases for it where I treat it as it is an intern. Oh, take this transcription, now summarize what I said, and then make maybe 5 to 10 quote posts out of it. Or if I use a more reasoning model, you can actually see the chain of thought that it does, and you can actually check its work that way. So maybe I want to say, oh, pull out some of the most poignant things that I said in this video, and then now with the poignant things that I said, explain why it's poignant, and then put that into like quotable, or maybe like help me outline an article or things like that. But I always have it explain its work, cite its sources, and I always check and I always read everything that comes out of it. And a lot of people don't. I've caught like so many errors, and I've caught so many things that I know for a fact it was just AI slop. And if you've seen this this segment, it's John Oliver's Last Week Tonight, I believe, and he talked about AI slop. And he talked about things that are just mass produced with AI. We don't know it's real or fake anymore, and we're becoming numb to it, right? We're just becoming numb to it. And not only that, but it's being used to influence our behaviors, biases, and really creating echo chambers of how we view each other. I know we are a very politically charged environment, so you know, a lot of people who want to influence algorithms or SEO or anything like that, they can now quickly produce things that will pull up a certain result. And now these AI models are trained on other AI data, so it just becomes one endless feedback loop. So I'm not saying that don't use AI or that AI is inherently bad, but I think that any tool that you use can be used for good or for bad. And so my mission is to empower people to use it for good, but not only to use it for good, but to understand how it works, even if it's not the most exciting thing that you'll listen to. Because at the end of the day, if you don't understand something, you're more likely to fall victim to it. And victim doesn't always mean that somebody did something to you and now you fell for a scam, but victim just could mean you're not getting the best output from it. Maybe you're misusing it, or maybe you're using it and it's not effective and you're like, I'm not using this anymore. So where do we find this middle ground? Where do we find this line? Because now what's happening is that there's a backlash bubbling, and it's been bubbling since last year, and I've said this too, of AI video, AI avatars. Now we even have AI influencers, believe it or not, which I think is stupid because I never really cared about human influencers. So I care way, way less about AI influencers. So how could we learn and leverage this tool together without treating it like it's a magic genie? Well, first of all, understand, and I encourage you to take some notes, because this is stuff I will be covering in later videos and doing deep dives. Understand how large language models work. Understand the differences between the types of models. So you have research models, reasoning models, you have different models coming out with larger context windows, larger memories, there's different companies doing different things with their models, and then there's companies that are building on top of existing models. So think of some of the now more agentic platforms that will let you create an app in seconds, right? They're using a base model from one of these companies to actually do that, or they may amalgamate a bunch of models based on the task required. And so it's really important to learn a little bit behind the scenes of how things work so that you can make the most informed decisions. And always check its work, right? You don't want to take it as gospel. You don't want to take it as fact. I know we all heard horror stories like the ChatGPT lawyer, the person that was outed for referencing fake trials or fake cases in something that they wrote, and they got called out for it, and it was just really embarrassing, and I don't really want that to happen. So understanding how it works is important. Number 2 is checking the sources. So you always want to just click on where it got its sources. So I don't want to say back in the day, remember Wikipedia, because Wikipedia is still very much a real thing, but I used to use Wikipedia in college, not as a source, because that's stupid, because you can't use Wikipedia as a source, but Wikipedia requires its writers to cite its sources. So then I would use Wikipedia to say, okay, they referenced the source, so let me go now and click and read the source to make sure that that is what the source has in it, and if that source is legit and valid, then I can use it in my own paper and bypass Wikipedia altogether. So I would actually do the same thing with an AI output. Click on the source, see what it says. And what I really like about the sources is that now it uses YouTube videos, so then I can go and watch YouTube videos and discover new content creators and new educators just by them showing up in a GPT search or an AI-based search. So that is pretty cool. So you always want to check, especially if it's something of critical importance, whether it is a marketing plan, a business plan, financial plan, or something by which you need to make a decision about your company, life, business, or even more importantly, someone else's life. Because at the end of the day, it's just a bunch of ones and zeros, and it has no feeling, has no sentiment, but the very same people, flesh and blood, carbon-based individuals around you have all of that, right? So we don't want to forget people. We don't want to forget the human in the loop. And sometimes it's very tempting. I'm the type of person, like, I will go to a self-checkout each and every time because I can do it faster. But sometimes faster is not always better. So it was finding the line between fast and efficient, and most importantly, and of utmost importance, correctness. All right, so let me just make sure that I touched on all the points that I had in my notes. So I read another source that I've sourced using an AI search, but I actually clicked on it. So an article from Business Insider that says, "Don't delegate your thinking to AI," warned CEO of Humane Intelligence, right? So this one says, truly novel ideas come from humans because all of the data that it has originated from human beings, and human agency should be preserved above all else. All right, and I'll link to this article where this video is posted. If I don't, just hold me to it and remind me. But yeah, don't let AI do the thinking for you, but it can have you do a lot of things way faster, and that is what I want to expound. All right, my phone is getting a little hot, but before I go, I want to just give you your next step. So if this is something you want to use in your life and your business, and you're worried about whether or not you're going to produce a bunch of AI slop, or you haven't used AI yet, or if you're still spinning your wheels about technology, CRMs, automation, or any of the millions of products out there, and you feel like you need some organization, SOPs, and systems, well, that is something that I can support you with as well. So just book a free automation insight session. The link should be wherever I post this. And I also have a systems readiness scorecard quiz. You can take the quiz. It's a little fun, a little 5-question quiz, and you get a bunch of tools, tips, and resources from me going forward to support you in your business and maybe even your life. Well, that's all I got to say about that. It is 87 degrees inside this car, and I am done talking. But I hope you got something out of it, and I hope this was a worthwhile conversation. I look forward to having more conversations like this. But I will save that for another day. Until next time, I'll see you later. Bye.